I'm Erin Lawler Patterson, the goodness chick. I'm an addictions counselor, motivational speaker, author, and parent coach. Join me on the journey of navigating the joys and pitfalls of life, addressing parenting, giving back, mental health, addiction, and relationships. If it takes a village, then join me as one of those villagers. Villagers wanted.
I had the topic, I had the outline. I actually recorded an interview with somebody about what I wanted to talk about today. And it's funny how life kind of works sometimes. The past week, it's been weird on all of my social media handles. The trailer, the advertisement for the new Mr. Rogers movie kept popping up. And I was like, okay, at some point I'll probably see the video. And I clicked a link and I started reading actually last night about what this man stood for, about what kind of, we'll say, his pillars, his highlights and what his passion was. The man kind of left me in awe. And as a kid, I was born in the late 70s and the 80s. I grew up watching Mr. Rogers. And he kind of, without question, was in his own way a trailblazer, a renegade for his time. He didn't fit the mold for what TV was looking for. What, in terms of producers, in terms of what, they were kicking out. With his cardigan sweater, to the kicks that he would take off. He was different. But what I really kind of gleaned from what I've been reading and what I've just really kind of taken time to reflect a little bit, man, we need more Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Whether it be, the TV shows that are out there today, whether it be the messages we're getting on different forms of social media handles, from walking, down our neighborhood streets to the hallways of our schools, of our workplaces. I believe that we're kind of in a state of needing a rejuvenation, needing a reminder of kind of the goodness of Mr. Rogers. And I know this kind of is a little different, this is a little strange, but my heart's been kind of heavy with this, and we need this. And so with this, I'm putting 5 pillars of what Mr. Rogers kind of stood for. And he stood for a lot of different things, but there's 5 that in particular really kind of pop out at me. And the first one is being you. And I rocked out a whole bunch of his quotes, and the more I read, I'm like, dude, this guy was a rock star. He had it. He conveyed it in the most humblest and genuine of ways. I took some time to read or actually look at. He received the Lifetime Achievement Award. And if you get time to hop on YouTube, Google, whatever, and just listen to his speech, it personified who he was in terms of humility, what the message that he stood for, and really the first one being, be you. And what a beautiful thing that is. I think a lot of times we try to conform, whether that, that's from our kids at a young age all the way up to us as adults, what we're supposed to be, what we think we're supposed to be. And with that, a lot of times we stifle our true self, our creativity, our quirks. And one of the things I loved about Mr. Rogers was that he loved people. He would convey to kids every single time that he was on air that he valued that person, and it's about the power of being yourself. So here's one of his quotes that I want to share with you guys. It's you I like. It's not the things you wear. It's not the way you do your hair, but it's you I like. The way you are right now, not the things that hide you. It's you I like. And so with that, it's self-discovery. And it's validating that, dude, you rock. And how many of us at times are like, man, I stink, dude. I'm not comfortable in my own skin. And I think that's a journey that all of us through life have to work on. And some are more comfortable, absolutely, than others. And for some of us, it's a lifetime of being comfortable in our own skin and allowing our quirks, our funkiness, our weirdness, our different things to kind of surface and make us better human beings. Because when we're all the same and we try to fit a mold that we think we're supposed to be fitting, that we're really not supposed to be fitting, we miss out and the world misses out on so much of what we're supposed to be. And I think that's kind of like a super bummer, you know? And one of the other quotes that stuck out with me is how important with being us, being honest, being vulnerable, and being positive. So that's a lot, but that's still in being you. And one of his sayings was, you've made this day a special day just by being you. There's no person in the whole world like you, and I like you just the way you are. And he breaks it down so simplistically, and at times, you know, I remember, you know, when I was like a teenager, you know, you see Mr. Rogers come up, I'm like, dude, that's cheesy, it's a little lame. It's not. It's so basic, but it's so basically beautiful, and things that we miss out on, and messages that we need to hear again and again repeated to us, because too often with the outside messages that we get from the world around us, society, our kind of internal cynicism is we stifle us. We lack value in us. And man, that's bummer, 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 bummer. And he says, dude, value you. And what an amazing thing that is. He had said, it's our insides that make us who we are, that allow us to dream and wonder and feel for others. So it's really valuing yourself and keeping things in perspective. Because what ultimately matters, as he said, I'm quoting him here, Mr. Fred Rogers, what ultimately matters is what we do with it. So these gifts, these traits, these attributes, these quirks, this funkiness that so many times we might say, what's wrong with me? It's not what's wrong with you, it's embracing who you are. These things, these gifts, these quirks that God has given you, and rolling with them. Being comfortable in your own skin, what a beautiful thing that is. So being you. Number 2 pillar, Fred Rogers, baby. Love and forgiveness. Quoting Fred Rogers, love isn't a state of perfect caring. It is an active noun like struggle. To love someone is to strive to accept that person exactly the way he or she is, right here and right now. That's crazy. Love, 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 and the power of love. And we hear love thrown around very haphazardly. What is love? Love isn't perfect. Love can be rough around the edges, but love is necessary. And love runs deep. And love is not seasonal, dude. Love is a beautiful, beautiful 4-letter word that takes time and is something that we all need to bestow not only upon ourselves, but another. And what I believe goes hand in hand with the aspect of love is forgiveness, and how often that kicks our butts as human beings, and it deters our ability to love both ourselves and other people, and it ends up building a wall around us. Another quote that Fred Rogers quoted from an old teacher of his that he said resonated deeply with him, that I thought was wicked awesome. So he said, there is only one thing that evil cannot stand, and that is forgiveness. And so often we have things happen in life, whether we allow ourselves to address or not. Sometimes we can kind of suppress them and keep them hidden within ourselves. When we choose not to forgive, dude, it can wreck us, and it alters our identity. It can create these barriers that can sometimes blind us and make us forge it into, kind of funnel into anger. Then it can become bitterness that just creates this layering system that hurts us and detracts from our full quality of living. And that's a bummer, because it goes hand in hand with our ability to fully love ourselves and fully love another person. And that includes, you know, our family members, our neighbors, our friends. And so I believe, I know I've had so many different experiences in my life where when I've chosen not to forgive, and I kind of, it's like a leech, let it stick onto me, it weighs me down, and that's a bummer. I know when I've made a conscious decision for certain heavy things in my life where I'm like, yo, I've got to forgive and I've got to let go. That doesn't mean I'm able to always forget, because that can be near impossible at times. But the power of forgiveness, and this is something for me personally, where I wasn't capable of doing by myself, I prayed about, and I asked God to give me the ability, the power, the peace to forgive and go forward, because what was happening when I wasn't forgiving, I was staying stationary or I was regressing. And that affected my ability to love myself, boom, and in turn another person. The power of love and the power of forgiveness. So we're now moving on to pillar 3, baby, which I love. And it's be a helper. Be a helper, be a helper. And it's making people feel a sense of worth. And what a crazy, amazing thing that is. And Fred Rogers, quoting him again, the world needs a sense of worth, and it will achieve it only by its people feeling that they are worthwhile. Continue a quote with him. The thing I remember best about the truly successful people I've met is that their obvious delight in what they do, such honest, enthusiastic living of our lives, no matter what our talents may be, it can deeply affect others. It's loving and caring for other people. And a lot of times it can kind of be this innate thinking that it's like, well, I don't have time, or that's not within me. And the cool thing is when we kind of get on the helping train, giving to others, giving of ourselves, what we don't realize is the gifts that holds for us in transforming our lives and transforming how we look at life. Many times we kind of get caught in the whole one-sided thing that this is like, I just can't. And can't holds us back from the can. And I love the focus that Mr. Rogers had on helping, on giving back, on that connection with how all these 5 pillars connect, where it's being you, it's loving, it's giving, and it's being a helper, dude. It's just such a beautiful thing. And because it's true, I think about with this quote, the most successful people loving not only what they do, but being honest, enthusiastic, and giving of themselves to other people, because it is infectious. It's a domino effect. And it's crazy. So quoting Fred Rogers again, it's my belief that the capacity to accept help, this is a huge one that goes hand in hand with this, but it's hard to digest here. I'm going to repeat that. It's my belief that the capacity to accept help is inseparable from the capacity to give help when it is our turn comes, I'm repeating myself here, give help when our turn comes to be strong. So it's saying this, that it's the ability not only to lend a hand, but to receive a hand. And sometimes that's really, really hard. It can be kind of, for those of you that are helpers, that it's like, yo, I'm here. What do you need? You can take the shirt off my back. I'll be there at 3 a.m. You can struggle with receiving help, and we can't. The ability to be willing to receive help, because, man, life can be tough. Life can be challenging. Life can just sometimes suck the life out of you. You kind of feel like you're being suffocated. And we're not supposed to go at life alone. And I love how many times in his segments it's okay to ask for help. Life can be tough, and he would give different, he'd hit on topics that were just something people didn't do back then, especially with kids, from divorce to loss, to being sad and depressed. Like the guy was a rock star, but it's something we need to continue to talk about. Being willing to receive help, because when we try to forge through the waters ourselves, we end up in a bad place, again affecting all these other pillars. And we have one run through in life, and to try to kind of hold our breath and tread water by ourselves, it isn't fair to ourselves or the people around us. And I think that's a big one. I think that's a super big one. Looking at one of the last quotes with him. I hope you are proud of yourself for the times you've said yes, when all it meant was extra work for you and was seemingly helpful only to somebody else. And what a cool thing that is. where it wasn't convenient. You weren't getting anything out of helping, but you did it anyhow. And I think that's a crazy, amazing thing. So that was our number 4. Fifth and final pillar for Mr. Rogers here is kindness and appreciation. Quoting him, 3 ways to ultimate success. The first is to be kind. The second is to be kind. And the third is to be kind. Here's the deal. The truth is, when it comes to life, and I've said this before, we all have our baggage. We all have our stuff. We are all essentially fighting our own battles. And when we're buttheads, when we are unkind, we are lacking empathy, compassion, we make somebody else's existence more uncomfortable, heavier. And I think when we look at it that way, it can cause us to think. Kindness doesn't cost anything, but it requires us to take a step back and not to think of ourselves. And in a world today of a lot of heaviness, I feel like a whole lot of negativity at times. You can't really look at anything anywhere with little kernels of negative, whether it be on Facebook, whether it be on Twitter, whether it be on the radio. I say counter that with kindness. Kindness, I tell you, without question, is contagious. You know, you have the old saying, kill them with kindness. I believe kill them with kindness. There are people, when I think of the different people I encountered in the course of my life who just kind of come across as miserable, or just like, they grade you the wrong way. To me, there's always something there. And what better way to kind of soften them and make, in the end, your life a little bit easier is to convey and project kindness and to be kind. And it's a very, just like love, very powerful word that requires effort, that requires time and thought, but it's worth it, because this goes hand in hand with appreciation. Fred Rogers, quoting him, I believe that appreciation is a holy thing, that when we look for what's best in the person we happen to be with at the moment, we're doing what God does. So, in loving and appreciating our neighbor, we're participating in something that is truly sacred. Bah! Tell me that's not powerful. Appreciation is a holy thing. And it is appreciating another human being. And not just appreciating them, it's conveying that you appreciate them. It's telling that person in your life you value them. And taking a second, I want you to think about the different people in your life that have made you who you are. Okay, whether that be a teacher, a parent, an aunt, an uncle, a friend. What kind of rocked my world a little bit, and I just thought, dude, what an amazing person was when I YouTubed when he was a recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award. And the dude, okay, Fred Rogers didn't get up there and be like, yo, my people, this is about me. And this is, I received this, I did this in my life. It was all about others. It was all about thanking other people. It was all about taking time to reflect. And he literally was like, yo, for 10 seconds, I want you to think about the people that made you who you are. And I started, they did a pan of the crowd, all these famous people. And it was so interesting to say, because it's so easy to get caught up in ourselves. He took time to reflect and to give thanks to other people. Appreciation and gratitude is something that is sorely lacking in so many different seasons of our life, or opportunities that we can really very easily get into this rut, that it's, I did this, or this is about me. Because again, we're in an I-centered world. When we fight for appreciation, when we pursue gratitude, crazy, crazy things happen. And there's a richness that kind of surfaces with life because of that. Appreciation, it is a holy thing. It's amazing and it's powerful. It can be unbridled in what potential it holds. And I really challenge you to, like, you know what, hop on YouTube, get some clips, old clips of Mr. Rogers, and, you know, the dude with the cardigan. He would take a walk and go visit the zoo and the library and the neighborhood kids, and he had that castle, you know, with the hand puppets. You're like, man, he's so calm and he's quiet. The man had a whole lot of knowledge and wisdom to lend. And the more I kind of have taken some time to reflect and think about him, the more in awe I am. The more grateful I am that I had the opportunity to grow up as a kid with so many powerful messages, you know, that comfort, that consistency, that reminder that you are special, you are someone. Let's make today a great day, you know, being kind to your neighbor, all these different messages that I think in this day and age, we need to be hearing more of. It's a message we need to be spreading more of. And I think when we kind of take that opportunity to think and kick around all these different messages, and the 5 I focused on today, I think are pretty powerful ones. If we tackle that, you know, for those of you guys that maybe are starting a new college school year, a new high school school year, you know, as a parent or a person in the workplace, if I make it a challenge for these 5 pillars for the next few months of my life, what will it do? How will it change my life? And sometimes we get scared and nervous and uncomfortable when it comes to change. I'll tell you, when it comes to these different pillars that we focused on, if this is something that you kind of make a goal of focus to rock out, we'll say for the next 10 months of the school year, it'll change your life. And again, we have one life. So what are you going to do to accentuate all the beautiful things in life, to get the most out of life, to give the most back out of life, and to learn how to love yourself? So I encourage you, if you're feeling it, pass this on to somebody else. Encourage them. Encourage one another. And be true to yourself. One of my favorite quotes of all time from Shakespeare is, "This above all, to thine own self be true." And a really kind of crazy, trippy thing, that when, you know, we got here, we're in our flat in Romania, I was looking for the magnet we had on our refrigerator, but I don't know where the heck it went. But that was the magnet on a refrigerator. What? I just was like, that's kind of interesting. But this above all, to thine own self be true. Learning to be you, learning to love yourself, fighting for that authenticity in life, your quirks, your funkiness, and that innate desire that we all have to help and love one another. And we got to fight for it sometimes. We got to fight like heck, but fight for it, and it will change your life. Thanks for tuning in, and I wish you all the peace, love, and goodness that life has to offer. Thank you, my friends.
If you enjoyed today's show, I encourage you to subscribe to Goodness Chicks Podcast and pass it along to your friends. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and have a great day.